If you are just coming on board, I want to welcome you to this evening legal advice regarding immigration issues. If you look at the topic I put out there, I'm going to look at the Theresa May's immigration legacy, and I will want to invite people in to phone in and talk about your situation, how you are being affected as a result of the introduction of the unscrupulous laws that were introduced under immigration rules during Mrs. May's time. You are more than welcome to call in, so that we can talk about how you have been affected as a result of Madam May's legacy on immigration rules. Ladies and gentlemen, my name has not changed. Lawyer Tokunbo Olagbaye. I want to welcome you on board. I want to appreciate you. I want you to know that I can see all of you, but I will not be able to, to look into comments straight away. But believe me, I appreciate your coming on board at this very hour, Theresa May's immigration legacy is what I want to look at. And if you look at what is out there, the telephone number to reach me is pretty straightforward. It's on 07908628240 WhatsApp only. 07908628240 WhatsApp only. Let us together look at Mrs. May's legacy and immigration. Let us together look at it. Just let us look at it together. Are we moving on? Are we moving on? Can you see me? I can see you. Are we moving on? It's your system, your device showing me clearly through this medium. I want to look at Mrs. May's immigration legacy. In her time, don't forget that she was once the Home Secretary for us in the United Kingdom before she became our Prime Minister. And I want to remind your mind, I want to send you back to the infamous period of introduction of different kind of immigration laws, that have separated family, that have created Skype, that have created a lot of unnecessary hostile environments. But I want to remind us, without prejudice, to be wary of our comments at the same time. But I invite you all onto this program to speak your mind, make comments, let us know how you are being affected as a result of the introduction of law. Can you see me? Can you hear me? Can you see me and can you all hear me? Good evening. Please proceed. Okay, Princess Adiola. There are some names now. Once I see you, I am just so ready. Once you say proceed, I proceed straight away. Straight away, once I see those names, I know we are ready for business. Honey-eyed. Yes, ma'am. Yes, Princess Adeoli. Yes. Good evening, Temilola Opalemo. Everybody on my platform, Tioluwa Funke, good evening. I recognize all of you. Olawumi Williams, good evening to you. Look at the topic I put out there without prejudice. Let us look at Mrs. May's immigration legacy. Immigration legacy. I've been busy in the office. I will have come out earlier before this time. Yes, we can hear you and see you, ma. Thank you, Mberuo Mona. Thank you. So to those who said that they cannot understand what we were discussing in the morning, apologies to that effect, but I intentionally give it to those who need it. So don't worry, it's nothing to do with law. Anything to do with law, it has to be in English, so it's for you. So don't worry. When I speak and you can't understand the language spoken, don't worry, it means it's for them. So therefore, I don't want the whole hairs of the United Kingdom to blown off. So that's why I put it in a secluded language, so that it will be for those who owns it to make use of that particular thing for the tribe. So apart from that, we are good. We have not said anything behind the authorities' back or behind any of none that tribe back. We have not done that, and we will not do that. You know, we will not do that. They are mine. So when I want to scold them, I scold them in my language, because it's something to do with the language and to do with the tribe. So that's why I always want to scold my people in that language that they will understand very well. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. Thank you, Princess. Thank you, all of you. Thank you, live and direct. Yes, when I spoke that language, where were you, Adedayo, Jimmy? It's for you guys. Yes, all of you, all of you. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my TV show, Lawyer Tokunbo Olagbaye TV, LTO. One day, if government says all of you that use TV on your platform, you are going to be paying taxes, then we have to pay. We are ready anytime. But if you're not ready, don't use the word TV, because you will be caught up in the middle of the journey. But we are ready anytime, because government needs to tell me the difference between ordinary platform and my one, and how I get more money or more viewers on it. The government will have to show me evidence to that before they will charge me separately for using the word TV for tax in this country. But other than that, if you look at the topic I said out there, Theresa May has just announced her resignation. That resignation was announced on Friday while I was elsewhere busy doing other stuff. So I was unable to hear the statement made by my Prime Minister in the United Kingdom. But having said that, she's going to leave office on the 7th of June 2019, which is just about 6, 7, 8 days, 9 days time. Ladies and gentlemen, in between that period and before, I want to remind you and wind you back to think about the legacy, leaving a legacy indelibly associated with two things: Brexit and immigration. Those are the legacy that she's going to leave behind. Legacy, Brexit, and immigration. Brexit is on its own. Immigration is on its own. Don't forget that Mrs. May was once the Secretary of State for the Home Department in the United Kingdom. And as a result of that, I want to draw your mind closely to that effect, so that you will know that, yes, she was once the Home Secretary. During Mrs. May period of prime ministerialship and the Home Secretary, she created a kind of what we call hostile environment. Hostile environment. An hostile environment is an environment that is not conducive, that makes people cry, that doesn't bring smile to faces, that discriminate against citizens, against subjects, against residents, against individuals in the country. Hostile environment that shows the difference between rich and poor. That is an hostile environment. There are so many areas that you can see how it's done, how she has done it, you know. But if you don't have someone like me to take your mind backward and let you understand how it was done, you will not know that. A lot of people applaud her because she's a lady. She has done well for herself and for her career as a lady. Kudos to her in that aspect. But I don't believe in a scenario when you hold a post and a lot of people are crying under you, they are not happy. I don't believe in that kind of situation. Without prejudice, I am saying this again. I don't believe in that kind of situation. When you are in a particular situation and you are making life so difficult, you know, difficult for others to benefit or to take advantage of, it is not that very friendly environment. And that's as a result of that, we look at it closely and we can tell anyone that it is an hostile environment that was created during Mrs. May period. I want to welcome all of you on board. I want you to know that you are not on this platform by mistake. If you have not seen me before, my name is what you can see out there. To many people that say, tell me about yourself. My name is Tokunbo Olagbaye, and I have not changed my name. I am Mrs. Tokunbo Olagbaye. And as you can see, I stand corrected. I am very well equipped within the realm of immigration law in the United Kingdom. I practice immigration law currently and I eat and wine and dine inside it. So I know exactly what I'm talking about. I belong to some groups and to some members as a practitioner in the United Kingdom. I run both certificates at the same time, Solicitor Regulation Authority as a solicitor of the Supreme Court of England and Wales. At the same time, on its highest of the level, I also run the office of the Immigration Commissioner Certificate. So I have both certificates, which I think I would say I am privileged, to have both at the same time. So for those who are asking, tell me about yourself. That is a little bit of me in the environment you want to know about. Apart from that, somebody asked question that, are you married? If you look at it out there, I am Mrs. Olagbaye. So of course, I am a married woman. So let us go into my legal profession and leave my private life aside. And that is the only way you can enjoy me. Deal with me, with my work, and leave my private life aside. Ladies and gentlemen, perhaps you may not want to know more, but let me start reminding you, Mrs. May's legacy was one of the most quiet revolution. You are helping me, but at the same time you are biting me. That was one of the legacy of Mrs. May. Quiet revolution in immigration policy that created a kind of an hostile environment, a toxic system of citizen immigration checks, a toxic one. Things were difficult, and things are still difficult in terms of revolutionary of the immigration law in the United Kingdom. All these were created at the time of Mrs. May, whether when she was in the power as the Home Secretary of the United Kingdom, or at the same time when she came into power as the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. I must continue to remind you, the situation is quite difficult. As we speak today, you will take your mind back and see that there are so many things that have happened. White papers have been put out there, flocking around, flying around on reforms on anything to do with consultation. But when you look at the immigration checks on one another, you will know that it is an environment that is so hostile, not friendly for those who are in the United Kingdom at that particular time when it was introduced. One of the most obvious immediate direct effects that you want to think of on the hostile environment created by Mrs. May was the Windrush scandal. Windrush scandal, though there are many people that were legally residents under Commonwealth citizens, but believe me, they lost their jobs, health care and dignity as a result of the Mrs. May that you have to blame for that kind of environment that she created. There is a widespread concern that the hostile environment encourages race discrimination. There is no doubt about that. There was race discrimination as part of what the environment created. The judges were complaining from time to time. If you are one of us that goes to court all the time, judges were not fluent at all with the decision-making process in court. They were very, very upset with the way most of the things were created. I could vividly remember in 2014 or 15 when I lead a Nigerian client to a case on point-based system in court, and they failed that Nigerian as a result of him not providing English test certificate. I remember vividly that the judge sitting at that time apologized to me and said, I am really sorry, Mrs. Olagbaye, that Nigerians have to be in this situation because they were fluent in speaking of English language. So she apologized and said that her hands were very tight. There is nothing she can do to amend the policy at that time. I said to the madam, I remember vividly, madam, apology accepted. It is not within your power to do anything because it was the Secretary of State that tampered with that area. Introduction of English tests to those who are speaking English and colonized by English country. I think it's an insult to its highest. to the highest order. So if you look at it, let me now take your mind back again to the issue of hostile environment. You will see how she created the right to rent policy, caused landlords to discriminate against ethnic minority tenants when they otherwise would not. She forced landlords to discriminate ethnic, minority tenants at that period. So some landlords obviously assume that you are illegal immigrant if you are ethnic background, because Mrs. May has made it mandatory at that time that it is a must for you to provide evidence of your right to remain in the United Kingdom. Clap for her. It was a shameful, one of the most shameful, I will tell you, law that was passed in this country that I have never as a lawyer witnessed in my lifetime. Because I think we should have our freedom as a landlord to rent our property to whoever can afford to pay the rent to us. Don't forget that majority of our properties are carrying mortgage, so which means that we have to pay mortgage at the end of the month. So I am wondering why the Secretary of State will have to get her nose into it at that time, and that's still affecting some landlords till date if they are not smart. Back in 2015, let me remind you, ladies and gentlemen, Mrs. May mentioned vividly in a big speech, I want us to work to reduce the asylum claims made in Britain, quoted. She did everything she could at that time to deliver, but claims actually went up, unfortunately for her. The year before she delivered that speech, there were 32,000 asylum seekers and their dependents claim asylum in the UK. The figure has been higher in every year since then. 37,000 people applied for asylum in 2018. Unfortunately, she was unable to achieve her target in that respect. Ladies and gentlemen, if I really don't want to bore you too much with the histories and everything, there is so much that we have to talk about. Mrs. May also claimed in that speech that it was immoral not to resettle more refugees, but she failed to expand the number of resettlement places as Home Secretary or as Prime Minister in the United Kingdom. Instead, Mrs. May did whatever she could to prevent child refugees in Carlisle or in the UK being reunited with their family members. Instead, prevented children to reunite with their family members in the United Kingdom. So you can see some of the clapping down on refugees that she thinks she can do at that time. But unfortunately, indeed, Mrs. May ended the policy of automatic settlement for refugees after 5 years, deliberately leaving refugees uncertain about whether they would eventually be kicked out in the United Kingdom. Before you can tell straight away, once you call yourself a refugee and the claim is accepted by the Secretary of State, then you can tell straight away that you will be immediately afforded what we call a settlement status, after 5 years. But deliberately, that was taken off. Automatic settlement refugees after 5 years was taken off, So you have to pass through some hurdles to show qualifying, If not, you'll be thrown out of the country despite your claim that you fear persecution from your country of origin. And it was Theresa May who introduced, again, the policy that prevents some recognized refugees from getting British citizenship because of the way they enter the UK in the first place. More deprivation of citizenship. Mrs. May was the one that introduced that kind of policy so that they would prevent many refugees from getting citizenship in the United Kingdom. Deprivation, we call it. There was a huge increase in citizenship stripping under Theresa May. There are quite a lot of people that have been stripped of their citizenship under Theresa May. Don't forget, I'll take you back straight away to these fundamental errors made by the Secretary of State at that time. So, if Theresa May can just leave the government completely away from the prime ministerialship, away from the Home Secretary or from any important government parastatals in the meantime, a lot of migrants will be very pleased to note that, because many people were affected as a result of this hostile environment created by Mrs. Theresa Mary Elizabeth May in the United Kingdom. So if you're not too sure about what I am talking about, there are so many people that were affected in that area, so you can follow it on, through that. The Supreme Court passes so many laws, but they were tired, they were tired. Let me take your mind back to also that Mrs. May introduced savagely expanded good character. She is the one that introduced what we call good character test for British citizenship applicants, undermining the 3 to 5 years residence requirement laid down in Act of Parliament by introducing a 10-year examination of a person's immigration history. Don't forget, it was Mrs. May that introduced it, that take you away from the entitlement to be able to use 3 or 5 years of entitlement. Instead, push it back to 10 years. It was Mrs. May that override the Act of Parliament in that respect. This was laid down under the Act of Parliament, but Mrs. May used her power to override it. Also, in taking you further to the legacy of Mrs. May and to remind you of those things that she has done that have created hostile environment in the United Kingdom. How about the thousands of Skype families created by harsh new family immigration rules introduced in 2012? Created Skype, what we call Skype, whereby husband and wife will have to speak through, social media from a long distance because they've been refused an opportunity to unite together and meet each other in the United Kingdom. How do I mean? By placing an introduction of the salary earning rule of 18,600, despite all the fight and efforts that the practitioners put in to go through all this. We won at the first court, second court, but she took it to the Supreme Court and won it and insisted that it must stand, that the rule must stand on the 18,600. When you put your mind back, you can see straight away that it is obvious that she discriminates. She discriminates against those who are genuinely seeking entitlement to bring in their wife or their husband into the country because they don't have enough income, and perhaps allow those who are not genuine because they have money to flaunt around the streets of London or elsewhere, United Kingdom or anywhere in the world, to bring anyone they want to bring in, encourages them because they can meet the requirement of 18,600 peacefully. This is kind of a separation between families, so they have to end up using Skype family. Use Skype to communicate between each other. Let's not forget how this discriminatory rule is. Women, ethnic minorities, and those outside London are less likely to earn enough to live with their loved ones. So women that have got children or child and doing part-time and want to bring husband, partner into the country will struggle to achieve that 18,600. And if you live outside London, they are going to struggle to achieve that as well. That is totally squarely on Theresa May's shoulders because she's the one that introduced that discriminatory rule in terms of not earning, people not earning 18,600 before tax deductions. They will not be able to bring in their husband or wife. And in fact, if they have children back outside the United Kingdom, they are stuck. They are stuck. The 2006 family migration rule also included the effective closure of the immigration rule for parents, cruelly forcing British citizens to move abroad to look after their elderly parents, because that door was completely shut. You cannot just apply to regularize your elderly parent status in the United Kingdom. From 2012, it becomes so rigorously difficult. It becomes so difficult. So you have to look think back again and see how you are being affected. So if you are saying that you carry British passport, it is none of your business. I'm afraid it's part of your business if you're unable to bring your mom or your dad into the country. I still receive inquiries every day. I want to bring my mom into the country. She's an elderly woman. She doesn't have family. How do I do it? Mrs. May does not make it easy for anyone to do that. Even if you are making an entry clearance application, you have to pay that huge amount of money on the entry clearance application, and you have to show exceptional circumstances, and that doesn't even guarantee that it's going to succeed at the end of the day. So it's a matter of you understanding what is going on in our immigration rules in the country. Legacy, it is what I am talking about of Mrs. May. Don't forget that she has resigned from her position as a Prime Minister of the United Kingdom after a huge call on her to resign, and she has no choice. At the end of the day, she has to drop her strong head and tender her resignation of as a position as a Prime Minister in the United Kingdom. So when you are moving on ahead, you will note that even if you are holding British passport, don't bluff that you can never be affected by any of the immigration rules, because don't forget that there is no appeal right for a family visitors or any visitors coming to UK. So if you have a British passport and you invited your sister or your brother or your cousin or your mom or your dad and they were refused, that is a big slap on your face. Despite the fact that you might be working and earning good salary, it is a big slap on your face because you will not be able to exercise your appeal right in that aspect. So it's part of Mrs. May immigration legacy that I am talking about. Mrs. May also took away right of appeal for family visitors. So that's what I've just mentioned now. Don't forget. So it's a matter of you understanding that even if you are carrying British passport, you can be prevented to bring in your family member on a just visit visa into the United Kingdom. It also prevents many families from attending weddings, funerals, graduations, and celebrations in the United Kingdom. It was Mrs. May. She abolished immediate settlement for spouses who have lived together outside UK for 4 years or more. Before 2012, I used to make an application for my clients overseas to come in as a British citizen and bring in their wife on a settlement straight away, an immediate settlement for their family member without any problem. It was Mrs. May that introduced that withdrawn that opportunity from a UK citizen to have that opportunity of bringing their spouse for immediate settlement into United Kingdom. After when they have shown that they have lived together for over 4 years in the country where they are coming from. This was taken away completely. Even those married for decades abroad, they must pay for visas and wait 5 years before they can apply for settlement in the United Kingdom. So if you have lived with your husband for 5 years or 10 years and you applied to come to UK, you are going to come under 2.5 years. You are not going to have immediate settlement in that aspect. So you look at it, there are so many damages that have been done during Mrs. May's legacy. Both as the Home Secretary of the United Kingdom and as the Prime Minister for the United Kingdom, too many damages have been done. For good measure, she wrapped up the cost of citizenship application for children, almost certainly denying many children, because the cost has gone up immensely, which means that many parents who are not working and relying on their child to have British passport so that they can apply under that child may not be able to afford that money. So the cost on it is quite huge. That was Mrs. May's legacy. That was Mrs. May's legacy, immigration legacy again. She wrapped it up and increased it, So if care is not taken, many children would have been denied the opportunity because they have to stay in the UK and they have to stay from the date of their birth and stay there continuously for 10 years before they can apply for that opportunity to have that. Many will have been denied, should have been entitled, but they have been denied. Many that should have been entitled have been denied from that opportunity. The cost of immigration and citizenship applications in general it has gone up in a way that you want to say has skyrocketed, skyrocket. You know, forcing migrants to leave UK, borrow, scream, and save or go illegal. You know, the cost of immigration, you look at the NHS surcharge that was introduced in 2014 from nowhere, out of blue. It came on and it was £500. Now last year, it has been increased to £1,000 per head. So four people in the family will end up paying 4,000 for NHS and then pay almost 5,000, 1,052.50 each of them to make application. So at the end of the day, excluding lawyers' fees, that family will end up paying almost 9,000 to 10,000 to the government on its own just to live in the United Kingdom. And that is just on a one application. They have to renew it every 2.5 years, every 30 months. So as you can see, it is not that easy for those who are in the UK. You know, if you are living in the United Kingdom, I'm not reading comment for now because I want to concentrate. I don't want to lose concentration, you know. So you can see how things have been unfolded since her becoming Home Office Minister, Secretary of State, and becoming a Prime Minister for the United Kingdom. The complexity of immigration law became so infamous under Mrs. May. Judge after judge has criticized the state of the law. Ordinary people simply cannot understand how the law affects them now. Unless you come to people like us and pieces it and tell you that this is the situation, this is what it is, this is how you have to go about it. Judges are tired. You know, judge after judge, they have criticized that state of the law. They're not happy. The state of the law on immigration, it's in a mess. You know, the complexity, the drafting of it is so vague. It is vague in a way that it cannot be understood clearly by an ordinary bystander. And as a result of that, it has to be well pieced by some of us who have just cannot do without reading it every day. Because even if you are an immigration lawyer and you don't read all the time, you are just going to be brushed aside under this emblem. You've got to make sure that you understand what is going on. I am piecing the legacy of Mrs. May under immigration. So if you are just joining this platform or you're here for the first time, I welcome you on board. The rules are such a mess now. They are such a mess. Since 2012, they are such in a mess that to the extent that an experienced immigration lawyer can barely get through an application for their own spouse. To the extent that an experienced immigration lawyer gets refused on application to bring in his spouse or her spouse into the United Kingdom because it is in a mess. It is in a mess in a way that we don't even understand it anymore for those who don't understand the law. Mrs. May's short-lived successor as Home Secretary, Amber Rudd was asked by the Law Commission to try and put this right, but it's likely to be a long time before members of the public can hope to make head nor tail for the rules. In fact, even despite the fact Mrs. Amber Rudd efforts to put things right, she too failed. But let us leave her own aside, because I am not here to discuss or deliberate about Amber Rudd today. I am here for the purpose of taking your mind back to Theresa May's immigration legacy, to see how you have been affected one way or another. How many families have been separated as a result of this hostile environment created by the so-called the Secretary of State then, now the Prime Minister, leaving the corridor of power on the 7th of June 2019. Many times they will want to justify themselves. But unfortunately, what happens when the court find out your removal from UK will breach your human rights? Don't forget, let me remind you, when they will refuse people's application and say you have to go and appeal outside the country. These are part of what created by the so-called Mrs. May of our time. Mrs. May created this, and you can see, welcome aboard the 10-year Home Office cash train, setting you back over £10,000 excluding legal fees. The cost Theresa May changing the rules so that those with human rights visas now have to wait 10 years instead of the usual 5 before getting settlement. Now you can see you have to wait 10 years instead of 5 years. 2.5 years was created by Mrs. May. 2.5 years multiplied by 4 terms, which is 10 years, and that is 120 months. Although in a way, some legal practitioners like mine will say that is a job for me to do, and it gives me more income. But when you look at the side of the client, when client is talking, it is just a difficult situation because it created more cost on them. Because as I calculated it earlier on, back over 10,000 will be paid, excluding legal fees on each family that are renewed for that 2.5 years every time. So it is the legal practitioners like me with a kind of situation whereby I have that sympathy. So I have to sympathize with my client, despite the fact that I am in business to make money, not to make losses. But I still have to sympathize and think about it that they are struggling. And this is why I said to most of my clients, if you are going for the first time, I understand. But if you are going on renewal, on extension, go and get yourself a kitty whereby you have to be putting money aside on your renewal. Ariwo call the music. Don't come back and say, oh, I have not been able to afford your money. I have not. You were being given an opportunity to work. So you should be able to put money aside and pay us when it comes to renewal or extension of your status in the United Kingdom. So you look at that from that angle. Few businesses visa. She has taken away a lot of business visa. I have a prominent client now in Abuja, an important client to me of all matter. I have been having so many important clients, but I have him as well as an important client, and I classify him with due respect to others that may be saying, am I not important? Of course you are important, but he is also important because he has that money legitimately to run that show of settling business in the UK. But when you look at the situation of things, the way Mrs. May and her entourage, they have done things indirectly on the immigration laws in the United Kingdom, it has now been so difficult for an investor to come and invest money in the United Kingdom. Myself and my clients in that Abuja, we were calculating figures yesterday evening, and we realized that £2 million to establish in the United Kingdom, just to put it in the United Kingdom bank for the purpose of having stay in the UK, it basically means that the government doesn't care about the safety of anyone in the country. They think about the money they want to reap from people to get. And as a result of that, they inflate that figure to £2 million. And £2 million from Nigeria currency, typical example, is going to be running into about 800 and something million naira, almost closing to £1 billion in Nigeria. In the name of what? Bílù yóò gbàgbé mi, màá sì gba ìlú ibòmíì lọ ní òwe Yorùbá ń sọ. If that country is not suitable for me, I will then leave and go to another country. UK is not a must. So people should not sell their properties carelessly in the name of business visas, because all those £50,000 have been taken off. Those opportunities are not there anymore. So if you are thinking of taking the business visa, please consult me and take proper advice before you dangle yourself into that problem. Don't sell your dukia in the name of coming into United Kingdom. Theresa May even introduced a cap on skilled migrants. She stopped skilled migrants like doctors and IT specialists from coming to the United Kingdom when they could not be recruited locally. She stopped it. So it was and remains. So you have to follow it on. This has been matched by scraping the rules, allowing graduates for British University to remain in the UK to work. Subsequently, you can see how it's been reintroduced to some limited extent under intense pressure. Only allowed 20 hours to work, and they are under pressure to make sure that the school fees are paid on time and do things. And the repeated refusals of business people and entrepreneurs on highly technical grounds. You will note that these are from Mrs. May time. Of course, if I want to draw your mind back to the 14 years long residence, you will note that this also was also cancelled in 2012. I will not but mention it. It is so impossible to pretend as if that 14 years has not been taken away. A lot of people have vowed and waited, patiently for the time they will reach 14 years. Some are even on 13 years, 6 months, when unfortunately the 14 years was removed completely on settlement long residence, and then it was replaced by ordinary. I will use the word ordinary 20 years in limited leave to remain, which means that they are saying that you have to spend 20 years in the United Kingdom, and then at the end of the 20 years, without criminal activities on your record, you will be able to apply for only 30 months in the UK. Automatic right to settlement after long residence is not there anymore. It has been completely taken off. Ladies and gentlemen, if you go back and wind your mind back, you can see that there is so much that have taken place during Mrs. May's legacy. Let me, of course, take you back to the issue of Brexit. Brexit is another one dilemma, one problem, one headache that this country shouldn't have got themselves into. But then she was part of the cabinet that gave the referendum, thinking that she can sit on the bench, on the fence, and make that gambling game. You don't gamble on things that will affect lives, affect businesses, affect people's day-to-day movement. You don't gamble on it unless you are totally sure of what you are doing. Of course, there is Brexit, one of May's most lasting and damning legacies that may well be forcing EU citizens to apply to the Home Office for permission to remain in the UK after Brexit. If you look at it, it's a damning legacy that at the end of the day, if care is not taken, the Home Office will now be requiring those who are coming into United Kingdom to be applying, from European country as if they are coming from non-EU as well before they will enter into UK, and this will leave many EU citizens on the deadline of becoming an illegal entrant. Probably thousands of them will become illegal after the deadline. There are many EU out there now that still not comply and apply for settlement scheme, apply through their settlement scheme. If you are still there, you are going to end up becoming an illegal entrant after 2020 December was projected, and that date is still there. So you can see that it is not that easy. It is not that easy the way I have put everything out there. EU citizens will also be forced to complete with additional paperwork to qualify for British citizenship. They were also forced, because EU citizens from 2015 onwards, they have added complexity costs to it now. So many have been refused to continue to have their citizenship status after they have shown that they have been here for 5 years because of the complexity attached to the requirement. So don't get carried away. These are all due to Mrs. May's illegal policy, rounding expected people to do things, and it will end up leaving many people homeless in the United Kingdom. It will end up leaving many people homeless in a country. And don't forget, whatever we did to the EU citizen in this country, they will also vice versa do it to British citizens in their country where the British citizens are residing. So we should take that on board. But if you go back and look at this video afterwards, you will see that I have managed to put together everything that have gone wrong during Mrs. May's immigration legacy period. It's just to show you what have gone wrong. The cost on NHS, the application fee, the settlement scheme, the spouse coming in automatic, the refugee status, the 2.5 years, the British citizenship status, the Windrush, many you want to talk about, you know, have left people in a situation whereby Britain is now becoming an hostile environment, hostile nation. There is not much opportunity for people to come and invest in the United Kingdom, unlike in another Western counterpart country. There is so much for them to use, you know. So this is the situation, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know whether we have any of you that want to phone in. I want to share your story, how you are being affected as a result of this unscrupulous legacy policy introduced, you know, by the so-called our dearest Mrs. May. I want to know whether we have any of you that have been affected one way or another. If your family has been affected, let us share your story together here. Call in on 07908 628240, 07908 62824. Ladies and gentlemen, my name has not changed. I remain your humble lawyer Tokunbo Olagbaye. I'm on 07908 62824. If you want to call in, this is an arena for you to take advantage of how you are being affected and share your story with others on this platform. So the line is now open, 07908 628 240, 07908 628 240. This is an opportunity for you. If you want to call, you can call in now. You know, you can call in on 07908 628 240. So it has already been put out there, you know, it has already been put out there. Hello? Hello?
Hello?
Yeah, hello dear.
Good evening.
Hi. Good evening to you.
Yes, I want to talk about how I was affected with this. And they instead gave me 2.5 years in regards to my kids, saying that at that time, because at that time my husband was self-employed, so obviously they said we didn't meet up the £18,600 threshold. So you understand what I mean? So
Yes.
they took me now out of the spouse route and now put me under they said because I have British children, they cannot separate me with the children, so now they put me under the children. So implying that I am now gonna be renewing again for another 4 term, right?
Instead of going under 2 times under your husband.
Under my husband, because presently I should have been applying for indefinite, but that's not the case I'm doing. I'm applying again for another 2.5 years, because the second time I went to apply, when I applied, they gave me under my children, not a spouse visa.
So
do you get the point?
I did, because in a way you're supposed to come under 5 years time because you were a student.
Yeah, I was a student.
Yeah, you were a student, but because of the short in income threshold that you were unable to meet the income of 18,600.
Thank you.
So
yeah,
and luckily for you,
they took me off my husband. And they took me off the spouse visa and gave me because of the children. That's the family route. So obviously they said I have to do it for another, 10 years. Which for me, I think is really, really very unfair and discriminating against us, the British wives.
Exactly. And you were even lucky. Because that reminds,
Exactly.
that reminds me that I
didn't have children.
Exactly.
Maybe I would have now become illegal in the country.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say. That's what I was going to say.
That is what people are going through.
Yes. Yes.
And it's not as if we have not been working. We are working, but if they calculate the money, it's not up to that 18,600. They will just deny you the spouse visa.
Exactly. So thank goodness God that at least you have a child and you have children. Because if you don't have children, you will have been deprived of this opportunity to continue to live with your husband. So you probably will have advised you to go overseas. You have overstayed your status and you are in relationship with a British person or a settled partner, a person, and you don't have child together, you will not be able to regularize in the country because you cannot have child between two of you. So invariably, you are being discriminated against if and I think it's unfortunate, it's very unfair. It's very unfair, politely, that kind of law should not be introduced under our system in this country, you know. So those are the part of the things that you will have to realize and take on board, how people have been affected as a result of that hostile environment we use, created by the then Secretary of State, now the Prime Minister. You know, it was an hostile environment created. A lot of the Windrush family, people that have been brought into the country when they were 2 years, 3 years old, they were just left out there without status and they could not access It's very, very bad. So many families were affected. And those are the reviews that I like to take your mind back to think, for you to know how, you know, how it was, how it worked, how people have been affected. There were no 14 years long residence anymore. There were no automatic settlements for spouse joining their British partner after they have lived 4 years overseas. There's so many things. There's no automatic settlements to 5 years refugee status anymore. Settlement is taken off. So you have to just fight. Introduction of English test to English-speaking country is part of the insult past, you know. And thank God that we didn't even allow it. They were going to introduce a kind of a stake whereby you have to pay £3,000 deposit if you are coming on a visit visa to United Kingdom. Some countries were mentioned, Nigeria, Ghana, Pakistan, India, Jamaica possibly. They were mentioned that you have to pay 3,000. But thank God the Nigerian government took it on board straight away and said, no way, we're not going to accept that from you. If you do that, we do it reverse back to your citizens coming to you, Nigerian as well. And they know that if they pay that kind of money to some countries here, they might not be able to get the deposit back. For UK, people will be able to recoup their money back if they're on their way back. But, you know, people should not be forced to come to UK on a visit. They have to come out of choice. And when they come, they should be able to enjoy themselves and go back. And that's the way I see it. So, ladies and gentlemen, time is of essence in my time because I have been in the office since, you can see the time we chat this morning. So I've got to go. I purposely brought this topic for you to remind you and to look back, you know, look back at Mrs. May's immigration legacy. And I am glad that I'm able to provide